Kia ora, this is about making conclusions. So this section is after you're describing and explaining your results. So your conclusions are the things that you're writing about that you initially tried to find out about. For example, the hypothesis you're wanting to test is around do people's perceptions of coastal erosion change according to where they live, and what you did in order to answer that question is you asked some focusing questions. For example, are people concerned about coastal erosion? Why are people concerned about coastal erosion? How does height above sea level, distance from the sea influence how people are concerned? And what are people's concerns about coastal erosion? So the way to do this is to think about your questions that you came up with to help you answer your hypothesis are the things you're going to write about first. So for example, if your question you wanted to find out to help you answer the hypothesis was, are people concerned about coastal erosion? You can say, using your research, that people were concerned about coastal erosion, but that varied according to where they lived. For example, people were less concerned in coastlands compared to the two locations in Ohope. You've got to use your values, but in your conclusions, you've got to tell me why you've come to that conclusion. You've got your data, but you might also have other information to draw on. You might have your beach profile to draw on. So the reason why they're not concerned about coastal erosion is because a lot of the properties in that area are well above sea level, and the distance from those properties is far away from the sea. And you might also refer to secondary data and say, well, looking at the hazard maps of coastal erosion, coastlands is higher above sea level, therefore less likely to erode. Therefore, people are less concerned about it compared to Ohope. So you've got to draw on all of your data to answer each of your questions, and you can conclude the answer to your questions. And then all of those questions you came up with to help you answer your hypothesis will help you say whether your hypothesis is true or false. And when you get to that stage, you've got to say if your hypothesis is true or false. So, yes, it's true. People's perceptions of coastal erosion do change according to where they live. And then you've got to go back to all of your data you collected, all the questions you asked, and you've got to justify why that is the case using your data. So you've got to make statements. Now your statement is either yes or no it's true or false, your hypothesis. So our hypothesis is either true or false. And then you've got to justify that based on all of the data you collected. And again, draw on the data again, because what you're showing is that you can come up with a conclusion and you can relate that to data you've collected and questions you asked. And it's about drawing all that information together to make a conclusion. Now, the next section is about evaluating your research. And what you might realize is that potentially some of your research was limited because of the number of people you were able to interview. You might not get a good cross-section of people who were able to reply to your surveys. Therefore, you haven't really got a big data set, a big group of data where you can get a wide range of opinions. Therefore, can you trust your conclusion? Now, that's in the next section, but those are the things you need to be thinking about as you finished your making conclusions section and going on to the evaluating section. Kia ora.